Hello, and welcome to HBO Succession, the analysis of a toxic family system, with Mandy Friedman, licensed professional clinical counsellor, and Andrew, her brother.
Hi there, Mandy Friedman here, licensed professional clinical counselor, clinically certified domestic violence counselor, clinically certified trauma professional level 2, and the creator of SNAP, Survivors of Narcissistic and Abusive Personalities, back talking about Succession Season 4. We are on episode 2, and I'm with my brother Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Mandy. I'm excited to be back to talk about Succession Season 4, the big one. One of the things we need to discuss today is Logan's visit to ATN. He is going to sell the other part of his company, but he wants to make ATN his home base now. So he makes a surprise visit where he addresses pizza as well as the workers. He even gets his own Apple box to stand on, sort of.
It's funny because Tom's getting ready to leave and go somewhere, and that's when Logan shows up. Greg is there observing and reporting, and Greg observes that Logan looks like Santa Claus if Santa Claus were a hitman. And that it's sort of like Jaws, that he's like a shark swimming around there with all the employees, and he's not happy about a lot of the things that he's seeing. Tom cancels his day, comes running back in so that he can be there, and Logan gives a rousing speech. He gives a really charismatic speech that makes everybody clap, and you can really see the version of Logan, maybe how he was when he was younger. What made him a leader that people wanted to follow was that he is brutal. He's taking no prisoners, and he wants you to be along for the ride. He says, "We are pirates." And it really does make you think, wow, Logan is a badass. Look at him go. All he's is standing up on a couple of boxes, and yet he's bringing everybody to their feet. So it is nice to see that version of Logan that makes people want to work for him.
I fucking love it!
Now, Greg and Tom are kind of cautiously optimistic, and Tom shows some very, very high skills dealing with Logan.
He says to Greg, the future starts now. In other words, this is what it's going to be. Logan's going to be here. It's you and me. We're working directly with Logan, and this is where the game begins. One of the things that Logan wants to talk about, but he doesn't want to talk about because he's not involved and he never said anything or has any opinions about it, is that he thinks that Carrie, his assistant / new girlfriend that is 40 years younger than he is or more, probably, that she should be an anchor on ATN, someone reading the news. And he comes to Tom and says, what do you think about Carrie being an anchor? And Tom's like, well, that sounds like an interesting idea. And it's a good idea. Yeah, it's a good idea. Yes, I think it's a good idea. And he just knows exactly how to navigate Logan to give Logan what he wants, but also by providing top cover, that he's got Logan's back. He's going to be aware of the whims of Logan.
Tom is prepared to go either direction with whatever Logan says. So he says things to test out, oh, we like this? Oh, we do like this. Okay, well, and then he steps a little further in that direction, but not too far, because you never know when Logan's going to change his mind. This also reveals to us that Carrie maybe has some kind of agreement with Logan, that, hey, I'm going to do these things for you, sexual favors and whatnot, and you're going to get me on TV.
So we would have a quid pro quo situation going on with her being his girlfriend, performing sexual favors, and now he's rewarding her for that possibly. So he has to sort of, steer clear of it. He doesn't want to be cast in a bad light, but it's also something where we're seeing him make bad decisions. We're seeing that he may not be really on the money like he used to be. And Shiv is also starting to pick up on that as well. He's made decisions that really aren't sharp, And now him suggesting Carrie have more attention brought to her is not really a wise move. But Tom's going to go through with it anyway because it's what Logan wants.
Tom is so good at negotiating the whims that are thrown at him by Logan that he knows how to delegate as well. And Greg is right there. So Tom discusses with Greg, hey, we got to take care of this Carrie thing. You're doing it. And Greg is like, interesting idea, counterpoint. And it's really funny because Greg does the same thing to Tom that Tom's doing to Logan. And it is amazing.
That's a really great point. Tom has been grooming Greg for this role for a long time now, and we're really seeing him put it into action.
When Greg goes to talk to Carrie, because he's been delegated to now give her the bad news, he is kind of good at it too. This part of it as well. He lets her down easy in a way that isn't going to really hurt him, although it is all on him in her mind. But she loses all her power in that situation because Greg is the one shutting her down. Carrie had made a tape of herself, for a tryout.
Good evening, I'm Carrie Castellabati.
And we see sprinkled in throughout the episode evidence of this tape. We see the actual tape. We see the siblings making fun of it. We also have Logan walk into the conference room for a meeting with Hugo and Jerry, and they're laughing at the tape too, and they hide it very poorly. And he sees what they're laughing at, and that's when he makes the decision that maybe this isn't going to work.
Because that's basically the same thing as them laughing at him. And he's starting to think, maybe this wasn't a good decision. Maybe this is one of my blind spots. I do have a tendency to get distracted, he's admitted before, to Marcia, So he knows that he has this tendency, and I think he's catching himself, but now he needs Tom to rescue him from his own bad decision.
We also had the storyline of Shiv and Tom maybe getting a divorce during this season. And so Shiv gets really royally screwed over by Logan when she starts to call around to different lawyers and finds out that Tom has already talked to all the big dogs in town. Mandy, that brings up a subject called post-separation abuse.
Logan used post-separation abuse with his wife, Caroline, the Shiv, Roman, and Kendall's mother, who's a nasty woman herself. So, we know she's also abusive. But he did do things to her back then that iced her out. He made sure that no lawyer in town would take her case. He has, the judges in his back pocket. He has all the control, all the power, and all the leverage, and that disempowers his soon-to-be ex. Post-separation abuse is a huge problem for people that experience narcissistic abuse in their intimate partner relationships. You're trying to get away from someone who's abusing you, and let's say you have children together. Well, the abuser is going to use every single opportunity possible to continue the abuse. Things like what Tom's doing. He's taking Logan's lead. Logan is saying, here's what you do. Call these 5 practices, these law practices. These are the biggest ones in town. This is who she's going to call. You call them first, and then they are conflicted out, and they can't take the case. And that's exactly what Tom does. We could call this post-separation abuse between Tom and Shiv, but they already have like a mutually kind of abusive relationship. Really, it was Logan, the original abuser, and how this was his game plan of what he used in the past, and it was successful, passing it on to Tom to use against his own daughter. So it is post-separation abuse, but in this strange way, it's Logan continuing to abuse his children through her disintegrating marriage. So post-separation abuse is something you can see a lot more about on social media these days. There's a lot of people talking about it because when we get into, say, for example, the family court system, like the Logan family did, what happened? The kids thought that she abandoned them.
Right.
That's what Shiv confronts the mom and says, like, you left us, you were gone. And the mom says, no, I wasn't allowed around. That's what happened, is your dad iced me out. I wasn't able to have any say over anything because of your dad. But the kids remember it as your mom abandoned you. That's post-separation abuse.
There's more abuse by Logan in this episode. And it's an interesting type of abuse. It's a similar thing where the children are going to take one of the like company helicopters to go to the rehearsal dinner for Connor's wedding, which is a big fucking deal to Connor, right? So Logan cancels it to mess with the kids, but he's also messing with Connor and preventing that connection as well. And so he abuses all 4 of the children with this decision. And it's some skillful abuse. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. He is sabotaging Connor's rehearsal dinner and trying to sabotage their relationship with Connor. He's trying to make life more difficult for them, trying to teach them a lesson. You know, you better appreciate the helicopter. He cancels the helicopter. They're not allowed to get on it. They threaten the pilot. But they do wind up, getting to Connor's rehearsal dinner. They get there.
Yeah, they get there late. And Connor is the only one left. They're getting there as Willa is leaving to go partying with her friends for like a bachelorette type party type thing. And Connor is the last one there, and he doesn't look happy.
Well, it wasn't over yet. The rehearsal was still going on. Willa left in the middle of it. Apparently, when she stood up to say her part, she said, "I can't do this," and then walked away and left went to the bathroom with her so-called friends, is what Connor says. And then she was in there for 45 minutes. And the next thing you know, she's leaving and going out to party. And I think it's Roman that said something like, "Well, you're the bride. Like, isn't it, important that you're part of the rehearsal?" And she's like, "No, not really. I'm not really needed here." And in a way, it's true, because Connor's made it very clear this wedding is not for her. This wedding is not about her. This wedding is about him. And so in a way, her saying, "I'm not needed here," you kind of deserve that, Connor.
Is Willa one of the more emotionally intelligent characters as well in the show?
I think so, yes. She has more emotional intelligence than the kids. But at the same time, she's very much egocentric herself. She's narcissistic in her own ways. And she wants to live the high life, and she's willing to sacrifice a lot of things to get there. This is maybe another quid pro quo relationship. And they joke a lot about that when she's missing and, the siblings are together for Connor's bachelor party. And they say things like, "Oh, just, give her another 10 grand in some teeth whitening sessions," like that's what'll get her back. So they're very much aware of the realities of their relationship. And I think Willa is too. She's just all along trying to figure out how much she's willing to swallow.
Connor is upset. The siblings are trying to help him, with a little encouragement from Roman. And, they want to know what he wants to do. And he wants to go to a bar, but not just any bar, a specific bar.
He says he wants to go to a real bar with chicks and guys who work with their hands and grease and sweat from their hands and have blood in their hair.
I love that. Connor's romanticism about life that he hasn't experienced a lot is really fun, and it's an interesting part of him. He also wants to go do karaoke as well because he saw it in a movie.
Yeah, he saw it in a movie and no one ever wants to go. So that's where they go. They go to a karaoke place. They have a nice private room.
And this is where most of the meat of this episode, in my opinion, happens. This is where the big stuff happens. We find out that Roman has broken the no contact with Logan, but also Connor has too. Connor has been texting Logan the whole night. All right. So Logan knows where the children are at. They know what's going on. Connor kind of brokers a meeting between Logan and the kids. Logan shows up at the place and wants them to come down to the car to talk to him, but they won't move. And so he has to come to them.
He's such a coward. He has to bring Carrie with him because he doesn't know how to talk to them. She's more likely to know how to talk to the kids than he needs her there. He has no idea how to do this. the kids aren't having that at all. Of course, they're not listening to a thing she says, and then they say cruel, mean things to her, because she also just recently found out that she's not going to have that position at ATN that she thought she was going to. And so they mentioned that to her too, like, oh, did he fuck you on that? Oh, of course he did. Kendall's like, yeah, that's going to happen. You know, that's the good kinds of things. The fucking, that's going to happen.
That's going to happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, Carrie is really in the lion's den here. She's trying to help Logan get what he wants out of his kids, but also she's realizing what her actual place is, which is she's not really all that important, and no one gives her any respect at all.
Logan wants to negotiate some things with them. There is the business stuff, but he wants to do the personal stuff first. The children want an apology.
He is doing this thing that I talk about in the SNAP classes as being a common feature, a common behavior that you see in abusive personalities, which is the seemingly real fake apology. What's going on here is Logan is having to put on an extra amount of effort to act right. He is trying to accomplish something. He has to win his kids over to make it happen. This is his weak spot. He does not do well in this kind of a situation. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't take responsibility, but he really wants to get what he wants, right? So he starts to apologize for random things that aren't really the real issues. Like he apologizes for canceling the helicopter. And they're like, oh yeah, like that's the biggest problem here. And at one point, Kendall starts listing things, terrible things that Logan has done to Connor and to Roman. But interestingly, Roman and Connor defend their father. And this is something that you see with abusive relationships between parents and children, is that children will continue to try to seek the approval, to seek affirmation. They will continue to protect the parent. They will continue to always shrink themselves to be perfect so that maybe they'll win their parents' love. You know, it doesn't matter how bad a parent is, a child has this built-in instinct to continue the relationship with the parent. And it's really sad to watch. Poor Roman, you know, I think Kendall says, you know, you beat Roman. And Roman's like, everybody hit me, no big deal, you know. And so if you remember in this family, if you complain about the bad treatment, then you're wriggling. You are squirming like a worm, and you're supposed to hold tight and not wriggle. So to complain and say, hey, this hurt me, makes you weak. And Roman right now still cares a lot about what his dad thinks. As we know, he's been carrying on outside of their no contact agreement with the siblings. And so he doesn't want for his dad to think too harshly of him, but yet he does take the opportunity to say, Dad, what are you apologizing for?
He wants the apology too.
Yeah, he wants an apology too. And he's thinking maybe Dad's about to apologize. So hold on. Shh. Let's see. Maybe he's going to. Connor does the same. Guys, he's trying. Let's listen. Okay, we're listening. And it's bullshit. And they call it out as being bullshit. So now remember what I was saying before is that he's having to put a lot of effort and energy into acting nice and acting right, not screaming at them, not saying mean things. That takes energy for him to not be his nasty, vile self. And you see this with abusive relationships and with abusive people. When they do the seemingly real fake apology, they get real pissed off when it doesn't work. When you don't fall for their trick, when you're like, you know, that doesn't really sound like an apology to me, and you didn't really take responsibility. Now here comes the true self. Because they're pissed off. Like, do you know what it took for me to act nice for 2 seconds? I walked up these steps to a karaoke bar out of the comfort of my car. I have Carrie with me. I'm embarrassed now because of everything that's going on with her. And I have to take responsibility and I have to apologize. Fuck you. You know, like now he's the victim because they're expecting him to take responsibility. He takes the mask off. He's his self. And he says to them, you are not serious people.
But what does he mean?
You are not real people. And that's one of the biggest insults that he can really, you know, dish out to his kids. And then he walks out and he leaves.
I love you, but you are not serious people.
A couple things that I find very interesting about that whole situation is as soon as he walks in, he says, "Oh, can we go somewhere else? The lighting in here is going to make me have a seizure," like that, and the kids are like, Shiv says, "We're not going anywhere." So he's setting up this sympathy thing like right away, and he's got Carrie sitting there like somebody just passed away sitting next to him going, yeah, and it's ridiculous and it's kind of fun to watch. But also, this is kind of a parallel situation to something that happened earlier in the show. If you remember, Roman had come to Logan and the kids had come to Logan to negotiate. And Roman had brought up, well, what about because you love us? What about that's a reason to do something? And he said, you bring love into this? And he gets all pissed off and screams. Well, this is what he's doing here, is he's supposedly bringing love into this and trying to use that as a negotiating tactic to start off this negotiation. And it doesn't work. It backfires every time somebody tries to do it on the show.
Yeah, he is weaponizing that deficit. He knows that they are what Connor calls them, needy love sponges. He knows that there's parts of them that still want his attention and his affection. So he's weaponizing that as like, okay, I'm going to go in and give them what they want and, act like that he cares and that he's bringing some, like you say, like he's bringing love into this.
He had said earlier in the episode when he realized that their moves are working, he said, they got juice. They got fucking juice. And that's when he had to do something about it. So this is the plan he came up with. You mentioned Connor. Connor has a standout moment here, maybe his best of the entire show, maybe one of the best parts of the entire show. He gives a speech and it's fucking fantastic and it lets us know a lot about him.
When I think about this show, I think about this scene and I think about this line that Connor has because it really demonstrates the realities of their circumstance. He says, the good thing about having a family who doesn't love you is that you learn to live without it. In other words, he doesn't care if Willa marries him or not. If she does marry him, but she doesn't actually love him, doesn't matter. If she doesn't marry him, he winds up alone, doesn't matter. He doesn't need love. He says it's actually a superpower to not need to be loved. And then he calls them needy love sponges, that they're always looking for daddy's love and affection. But he says he is a plant that grows on rocks and lives off the insects that die inside of him.
You're needy love sponges. And I'm a plant that grows on rocks and lives off insects that die inside of me.
Having a parent who doesn't love you and abuses you and treats you like an object, it changes the course of your entire life. It changes your view of yourself. But most importantly, it changes your ability to have relationships with other people. And Connor has realized that he's absent of those genuine relationships that he sees other people maybe having with their family members or with their spouses. He's never had that for himself, but somehow he's okay with it and learned to accept it. He has practiced acceptance over his circumstances. And to me, that shows, he's still not a very good person. But at least he's able to recognize what love is and what love is not.
He is older. He's got more years. And so this is some of his older wisdom showing that he has figured this situation out. He knows how to navigate his dad. He thought he'd try this, to see if maybe he could show them how to navigate dad. And it didn't work. Another thing that's interesting too, is that when he says those words, the really powerful ones, Roman says, Jesus, like he just said the most shocking thing that Roman's ever heard, because Roman resonates with these words. Connor's story for this episode ends when he decides to go home. And he's been so worried that Willa's out with somebody else. He doesn't care because he doesn't need love, but this could screw up the wedding, right? So he goes home and guess where Willa is? She's in bed and he hugs her. And I love that.
Yeah, I was really happy for him in that moment that at least something went well tonight. Yeah, he's happy to see her, but we know more about him now because of what he said and how he conducted himself through the evening when this was supposed to be his night. And instead of it being his night, he's just reminded that his family doesn't love him, and he'll go ahead and take the fake love that may not actually be love from Willa, and that'll keep him warm at night.
It's sad, but it's great too, because that's a great show don't tell moment for the show, because we see Willa's made the decision that she's going to marry him by the fact that she's there, right? And he has it, and it's all wrapped up in this awesome moment. I love it. But the end of the show is Roman, who had been, he's always hesitant, he's always kind of off on his own a little bit in these big group moments, thinking, and we know what he's thinking. He's thinking, well, but I still want to try with Dad. We almost had something here. And so he gets reeled in for more abuse and some divide and conquer.
And that's where episode 2 ends, as we see Roman cozying up with his dad. And we know that it's probably been going on more than what we realized. But he also says something really important. We mentioned divide and conquer. Roman arrives. Logan looks at Roman and he says something like, we know how they are. So he's doing us and them. He says, we know how they are. So we're together and they're over there. Logan is hoping that this is going to weaken their position. They were unified and now they're not.
He's also in the room with Tom when Roman arrives, and this is like this is like a choreographed moment where Tom's like, I'll give you a moment. This is important to Logan, so I'll leave. You know what I mean? And that makes Roman feel like this is real. There's all this kind of, subtle and not so subtle manipulation in the show. And this episode is such a great example. It's been one we've been waiting to get to. And the next one is just going to be, this is the real one we've been waiting to get to.
It's off the rails from here. I'm really looking forward to doing the rest of this season because every episode is just a gem. We'll see you next time with season 4, episode 3. Thank you for watching or listening. Goodbye.
I fucking love it!
This has been HBO's Succession, an analysis of a toxic family system.